In this video, you are going to learn how to set up a TikTok ads campaign to drive conversions for your e-com store, regardless if you're selling on your own store or you are doing drop shipping. Now, TikTok advertising is more important than ever today because Facebook advertising and Instagram ads have become quite expensive and they're not as effective because of the iOS 14 change that recently happened. Now, I have invested over $75 million of paid social ads, running thousands of campaigns over the last 10 years, working with global and Fortune 500 brands, and working with very large global advertising agencies. So as I show you the different elements of the TikTok Ads Manager, and as I show you how to build a conversion campaign, I'm also going to give you tips and best practices that you want to soak up. Make sure to pause this video as you follow along if the information becomes too overwhelming, and then just come back to it. Also, lastly, before we get started, super important that you watch this from start to finish, because I've seen advertisers lose as much as $80,000 in one single week just because they clicked on one wrong placement, one wrong setting. Now, that said, let's get started. And if you want to follow along, make sure to visit the link at the top. Go to ads.tiktok.com. And before we create a campaign, there are going to be a few prerequisites. Now, I'm not going to cover all of those prerequisites in this video. You should do that on your own time. And that's, first of all, creating an ad account. You want to also create a pixel and put that on your e-com site or whatever site you're using to drive conversions. And you're also going to want to set up a billing method, like a credit card or a debit card for your business. So this is super important so that you can follow along. But even if you haven't done so, you can still follow along in this video. That said, let's get to it. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is give you a tour of the Ads Manager. Now, the place where you will spend the most amount of your time is this tab right here called Campaign. Here you will be able to see all the different campaigns that you build. This Ads Manager for TikTok is structured very similar to Facebook. So if you're familiar with Facebook advertising, you know that you have a campaign level where you have certain settings. You have an ad group level where you build your different audiences, and that's where you do all of your targeting and your bids. And then you have an ad level at the bottom, and your ads live within your ad group and are also connected back to that original campaign group. So it's very similar, not too different, but there are nuances at each one of these stages, and we're going to go through all of them. Another tab that you might spend some time in is under Assets, specifically with your creatives, so you can see the creatives that you've uploaded as well as your audiences. This is again very similar to what you've seen in Facebook ads if you're familiar, and towards the end of the video we'll do a little bit of deep dive towards that. As you can see here, there's already some metrics, some custom columns that you can actually create, so you can see how much money you're spending. You can see what your average cost per clip or any other key performance indicators. I imagine that conversion and the cost per conversion is going to be super important to your business. So should be very familiar if you've done any Facebook advertising. Now, that said, let's go to hit that create button and see what we have. So there's a few different types of objectives that you'll see here. And again, if you've advertised on Facebook, some of them are going to be more familiar. Now, for 99.9% of you watching this video, conversions is going to be relevant, but I want to take a quick second and just talk about some of the other objectives and what scenarios you might use them. So if you were doing brand advertising, reach campaigns might make sense because you're just trying to get in front of as many people as possible. If you're doing e-com sales, not relevant. Please don't use this. If you have an app and you're trying to get people to install your app because you're trying to sell people on a subscription service, app installs might make sense. If you have a B2B business and you're trying to drive leads, lead generation might make sense for your business, and you can collect leads within the platform, very similar to as you've probably seen with Facebook ads. Traffic is one that might be relevant to you as an e-com advertiser, especially when you're starting off because you might not have a lot of conversion data on your pixel. But again, for 99% of you, probably don't want to start there. We're going to start with a conversion campaign. There's very few scenarios where as an e-com advertiser, you want to run a traffic campaign, and that's either a brand new website or brand new pixel, and you might want to do that for maybe a week just to get some signals going. or two, you've exhausted conversion campaigns, you're spending crazy amount of money and you can no longer scale your conversion campaigns, and that's where you want to go up the funnel and potentially do some traffic campaigns. All right, so let's jump right into it. We're going to click on conversion campaigns and we're instantly taken to our settings where we can give our campaign a name, and we're just going to say test campaign. And the next thing we see is special ad categories. Now, this is for any ads that you're going to run in particular to these three areas, because there's regulations, especially in the US market. If you're not in the US market, you might not see this or you might not be impacted by these regulations, but there's regulations in place so that we don't discriminate anybody that's trying to buy a house, get a job, or sign up for something related to a credit card or a loan. And if you are running a campaign for one of those areas, you just have to check off the box, and there's going to be some limitations in terms of the targeting you can do. But if you're an e-com advertiser, probably in most cases not relevant to you, so we're going to skip. There's also going to be some things that I'm going to skip in here because I just don't think might be too relevant for people. So that if you do have any questions, just drop a comment below and I can sort of answer some of the things that I might have skipped there. Campaign budget optimization, CBO. This is one of the most time-saving tools out there. And for 99% of you, I'm going to recommend that you do use CBO, because what it does is just, if you have multiple audiences that you're targeting, it allows your budget to be flexed across whichever one of your audiences is actually converting the best. And I've seen historically that campaigns on Facebook with CBO outperform, and TikTok has told us that the best practices are to use CBO on their platform. Budget, of course, you do want to have a limit unless you have infinite amount of money like Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk. If not, then you want to have a budget. And you might be asking yourself, like, well, what should I be spending on a daily basis? Well, that depends on what your average cost per conversion is, because the rule of thumb is you want to try to aim for at least 50 conversions per week for each one of your audiences. That's a rule of thumb. And if it costs, $10 for you to get a sale, that would mean you want a $500 budget per audience. So, and the reason why is because it usually takes about 50 conversions for the algorithm to figure out who is going to convert within that audience group. So as a rule of thumb, you can use that if you don't have an existing budget. So 50 conversions a week per audience, and then calculate the average cost to get a conversion. And that might differ depending on what you're selling. So I'm just going to say $500 for now, and I'm going to turn on CBO. Before the era of CBO, like 5 plus years ago, what we had to do as media buyers is that we had to manually go in, and if we saw performance for one audience started to decrease, we had to move money and change the budget and decrease it and add budget to the other ad group, which was not fun. Okay, bid strategy. Bid strategy, you want to start with lowest cost. What this means is that it's going to get you the most amount of leads or sales as possible for the least amount of money. Now, there's more sophisticated strategies you can use in the future where you can control what you're willing to pay for a conversion, but I would recommend you not to start there, because chances are you don't even know what a conversion really costs for your business if you're just starting off. So we're just going to let that be lowest cost, and then we're going to say continue. So now we are shifting to the ad set level. But before we get into the ad set level, I want to give you a few best practices for your campaign structure. So your campaign can house multiple audiences. We already covered that. How many audiences do you want to have on average? 3 to 4. 3 to 4 is the rule of thumb. By the way, if you see me looking this direction, it's because I have a ton of notes on a second screen, and I wanted to make sure that this video was detailed as possible. So I'm not ignoring you. I'm here. It's just I'm looking at my notes because it's a lot of information. Okay, so campaigns, how many do you want to build? There's 2 different levels of bifurcation that you want to remember. You want to create campaigns based on your audience journey, and you want to create campaigns based on your different targeting types. So as an example, you want one separate campaign group for prospecting brand new customers who are not familiar with your business. And then separately, you want a separate campaign for retargeting. So retargeting anybody that's been to your website, that's maybe an existing customer, maybe someone that engaged with your organic TikTok profile. You want to have those separate. Reason is because they're going to perform different, and you want to be able to control budget differently to them. You also want to be able to have different messages for these different audiences, especially the retargeting audience that's already familiar. You don't want to talk to them like a stranger. So that's one level. That's one reason you would separate two campaigns. Another reason is by targeting type. So as an example, you could do, interest targeting, you could do behavior targeting, you could also do custom audience targeting, such as Look-Alikes. It's recommended that you separate your campaigns in the beginning by these different targeting types so that you can get a clear, you could see a clear, at a bird's eye view, how these different campaigns perform. Now, some of this is personal choice. You can have them in the same campaign. I think long term it makes sense to have them in the same campaign once you figure out the audiences that work, because you could turn on CBO. But as a best practice, that's where you want to start. All right, let's get to the ad set level tour. So at the ad set or the ad group level, first thing that you want to do is give this a name. So we're going to say, and I think it might be helpful that if we pick a test brand for this example so that we can follow along. So we're going to say we're going to do a skin cream, let's just say we're selling a skin cream, right? $80, maybe $120 skin cream. So we're going to say this audience is going to be skin, let's just say interest underscore skin cream. And we're going to say all ages / men, all ages, men / females. Cool. Now, the next thing that we want to do is that we want to say, well, where are we going to convert these audiences? We don't have an app in this situation. We're going to try to get them to buy on a website. So we're going to say website. Now it's the next thing it's going to ask is going to say, all right, which TikTok pixel do you want me to use? So at this point, you might not have a TikTok pixel set up, but you can still, again, follow along in this process. I have two different pixels here for two different stores I have. I'm just going to pick one of them for this example. It doesn't really matter. But once you pick your pixel, whatever events you set up on your website are going to show through here. So as an example, if you're using a Shopify store, there's a direct pixel integration which will do all these tags for you. If you're not using a Shopify store or you decide to set up your pixel through Google Tag Manager, you'll manually have to add these, and it's not that difficult. There's a ton of videos out there that explain this stuff. So I'm just going to say my purchase event, I call it subscribe, because this is for my online course. So just imagine that this said purchase. Or also, let me see if I actually have that in my other pixel, because I don't want to confuse you guys. So this shows you all the different events. As you'll notice, some say no recent activity and some say active. You want to choose the event that says active because that means that there has been recent signals coming through this event. This is a conversion campaign, so the algorithm's trying to optimize based on your pixel signals. If there is no recent activity, that means there's limited signals. That means your performance isn't going to be that great. So I'm going to go back to my first pixel, the hypergrowth ads pixel, and I'm going to go to my subscribe optimization event, which is basically just a purchase on the website. And it usually fires once someone buys the product and it goes to the thank you page as an example. All right, so I picked the website. Now I'm going to go to my placements. This is where your ads are going to show up. By default, TikTok and even Facebook Ads Manager, they're going to default to automatic placements. I do not recommend that you do automatic placements because your ads might show in places that aren't going to perform too well. I would recommend that if you want to test multiple placements, that you create separate campaigns and see how they individually perform. And as you'll notice, TikTok's going to give you 3 different places because TikTok is owned by a parent company called ByteDance, and they have different platforms that they run. I would recommend that you start your campaigns with TikTok, as we know that that's where the majority of the audience is active, especially if you're in markets like the US, the United States, Canada, the UK, if you're trying to target more of these developed wealthy markets. Later on, you can, after you see some results on TikTok, you can consider setting up a separate campaign and individually testing some of these other placements, or doing some kind of split test where you maybe test it for like 2 weeks or something. But I would not recommend that you start with this on. Okay, what's next? User comments, video download. It's up to you if you want to allow your target audience to download your video. I would say in most cases, it probably would make sense to turn this off because you don't need your prospects to download your ad. User comment is one that I would recommend to leave on. I know a lot of brands are, get worried if they should be letting their ads get comments because they're worried people might say, stuff about their brand and they might not like it and it might influence other people. What we've seen is that your ads perform better if interactions are happening on your ads. People are liking it, sharing it, saving it, and commenting. Yes, not every comment is going to be positive, but there are ways that you can manage your comments with like a keyword block list. So if anyone says a curse word, it doesn't show up as a comment. It comes up and you have to approve it. But I would recommend to leave this on. It's going to positively benefit performance. All right, we're still at the targeting level, and we're going now into creative type. So the creative doesn't actually live on this screen. It lives on the ad screen. But something that you can turn on from here is what's called automated creative optimization. And just to give you an idea what that is that you basically give multiple assets to TikTok and it mixes and matches your videos and your text ad, just how it says right here. And then it can just kind of create a permutation of different ads. This is something great to experiment and test. I would recommend starting off not to use this and to create individual versions of your ad so that you can just sort of get more familiar with the platform before using one of these features, which is a little bit more advanced. Okay, so moving on. Targeting. Again, these platforms, if you let them, they will spend your money. They will spend your money, and the benefit of using digital marketing just in general is the ability to get really targeted. So whenever possible, I suggest that you avoid automatic targeting, because even though you might get sales and your campaign might perform well, you might not be sure what's working. You might not be sure what sets of interests are working. You might not be sure if it's the behavior targeting that's working. You might not be sure if one of your ads works really well for one audience but doesn't work for another. So I always recommend to do custom targeting whenever possible, and then as you get insights, and you get some performance for your campaigns, then consider testing automatic targeting for a period of time. Just know that a lot of the insights you will not be able to get in the same way that you can with custom targeting. So we're going to continue with custom targeting. A few best practices here. Avoid hyper targeting, meaning trying to create these very small audience groups of like 30,000 people and 50,000 people. Granted, depending on what geographic area you're advertising in, that's going to be a factor. So to give you an idea, in the United States, we have about 350 or 380 million people. So I could see that without selecting any targeting criteria, I can reach 126 million to 154 million. This is extremely broad. Obviously, everyone is not going to be your customer. Even if you're selling an eye cream, which can have multiple audiences, or there might be a lot of people that might need an eye cream, the benefit is being targeted, but not being targeted to the point that you're so small, because what ends up happening is that the cost to advertise is going to extremely go up if you're being very hyper targeted. Then again, you don't want to be broad to this point that you're just hitting everybody, because then you're just wasting your money. You want to find a good balance. And usually a good rule of thumb is to try to have at least a minimum of 3 to 5 million in your audience if you are prospecting. If you're prospecting a brand new audience, not familiar with your brand, minimum of 3 to 5 million, but also don't want to get to the point where you're hitting, 50% of the entire country or 100% of the entire country. So please do use some common sense here. This is specifically for prospecting. For retargeting, it is okay if your audience is smaller because they're already familiar with your business. And we know that audiences that have already been to your website or already familiar are more likely to buy from you. So if you have a small audience retargeting list, it's okay if it's smaller, if it's 1,000, 5,000, 3,000, because they're valuable and you should continue to talk to them. All right, so moving on. Languages, I'm just going to put English because I'm going to assume for this example that we're making an English ad. Audience is still fairly broad, 116 million. And I'm going to say this is a skin cream for females. So I'm going to say female. And I just remembered that I put male and female in my headline. So I'm just going to put female only. Oh, F only. Okay, that sounds a little weird. And you know what? I'm going to give you a little pro tip here. When you first start off building campaigns in TikTok Ads Manager or any platform for that case, a lot of people think that the way that they name the campaigns and the targeting isn't that important. It is. It becomes very important long term because as you start to have multiple campaigns, you start to get confused and you're just like, you're not even sure what's in one campaign group. So I always recommend to be very intentional with the way you name things so it's very clear what's there. So at an ad set level, including what type of targeting, a specific descriptor of the targeting, and what ages, market, and also what gender. That might help for your business. So I'm going to say US. So if you look at this, you have a good idea of what is in this. Okay, so females, we're going to say 18 to 24, 25 to 34, and 35 to 44. So now our audience is down to 60 million. So we're getting there, but this is still very, very broad. Let's see. So now this is where we're going to get into. So this is actually, I mentioned that there's different ways to target. There's custom audiences, there's interest, there's behaviors. Custom audiences are great once you have some customer data. So once you have some customer data, you can upload your purchasers, past purchasers, and you can build a lookalike audience, which work very, very well, very effective. Now the difference between lookalikes and TikTok versus Facebook Ads Manager is that TikTok has 3 different levels: specific, balanced, and broad. And if you're familiar with lookalikes on Facebook, this is very similar to how you might build a 1 to 2% that's going to perform very, very well, but you can go very broad and go all the way up to 10%. Now, 10% represents the percentage of people that live in that market. So as an example, on Facebook, a lookalike 1% audience in the US is like 2 million people, but a 10% is like 20 million people. Now, as you go up, the performance of the lookalike decreases because the platform will match less characteristics to the people who've already bought. So I'll repeat that. As you scale the lookalike, you get a bigger audience, but performance goes down because the matching characteristics of that initial audience list you upload will decrease as you go broader. So something great to test out. I haven't uploaded any audiences, so we're going to skip that. Also, exclusions. It's important that if you have a prospecting campaign and you're doing interest targeting, and separately you have a lookalike campaign that's running, you want to exclude the lookalikes from your existing interest targeting campaign to create split lanes so that you know that anybody that converted in your lookalike is only lives in your lookalike, and anybody that converted in your interest campaign is only in your interest campaign. Also, this is an opportunity to exclude anyone who's been to your website and purchased. So very much like Facebook, you want to suppress from your prospecting existing purchasers because you might already be talking to them from an organic level. Or depending on your product, maybe it's not a repeat visit. Okay, so now let's get into it. So interests and behaviors, this is where you can see it here. One distinction I'll make off the back of how TikTok is very different right now as I make this video in June of 2022 than Facebook Ads Manager is that you can't do and targeting. So and targeting, I could say, hey, someone likes skin creams and they like these brands, which allows me to get an even more precise audience targeting profile. Now in Facebook ads, you could do that, which is great. TikTok, they're not there yet. And much to the credit of the TikTok ad tech team, they've been working day and night building this platform and getting it up to speed. I mean, it took Facebook like, I don't know, 15 years to get to what they are today. TikTok has moved incredibly fast. So I'm sure in the future you will see that option here, and you do want to experiment with it here. So, all right, we're selling a skincare cream. I click here on interests, and I can start to see all of the different pre-populated interests the platform has. So we have household products, food and beverage, life sciences, travel, and I want to find something that's relevant to my skincare cream. Okay, look, here we go, beauty and personal care. So we can see that this overall audience is over 107 million people in the US. So we want to, again, try to get more specific so that we're not hitting everybody, but we're hitting some people that are most likely to buy our skincare products. So now I see one here for skincare, which is amazing. And now I could see body care, facial care. And let's just say this is a face cream, right? And let's see, someone that's interested in face lotion and moisturizers might be a good audience. Now that I've selected that, it's taking this people who are interested in face lotions and moisturizers that are in the US market, and that are the age ranges that I selected, which is, I believe, 18 to 44. So now it's telling me, hey, this audience is too small. It's only 13 million, 15 million. I personally think that's still sizable. And what the platform's telling me is I should turn on targeting expansion, which is a feature that says, hey, if we can find more people that are likely to convert, that are similar to what you selected, which is facial lotion and moisturizers, we will find it. So let me show you what that does. If I click apply, it takes me over here and it says, hey, let's turn on targeting expansion. And then it gives me different settings which I can use to guide targeting expansion. So I'm going to say targeting expansion is only available for settings which you've selected at least one targeting criteria for. So I'm going to say based on interests and behaviors. If you can find similar people. Okay, and now this is where I get a little kind of concerned, because there's 13 million people on the platform that fit my target and are interested in facial lotion and moisturizers. But then I say, okay, find me similar people to those. Now you're telling me 60 million, which is, to me, that's like way too large. That's a very large audience group. So I'm gonna try to see if there's another way I can grow this audience. So I'm gonna go back here and I'm gonna click on interest, and then I'm gonna say, all right, let me see if there's any other categories similar under facial care subcategories. So let's see, facial essence, people who are interested in facial essence. Interests are defined. I don't know what that is, so I'm gonna keep going. Okay, if you're interested in cleansers and maybe makeup remover, maybe you care about your face, so that might be relevant. That helped the audience grow a little bit. Maybe if you're into facial masks, this might, again, you take care of yourself, you care. So now I've gotten this audience from about 16 million to 28. TikTok is happy. It says, hey, it's balanced. I still think this is a bit broad. In the future, when they do have the and or targeting options, I would probably like to get this closer to under 20 million, but a minimum size of 3 to 5 million. Now, they also have the ability to do behavior targeting. And the great thing about behavior targeting is that if you find a short list of creators who maybe are relevant to your business and products, you can say, hey, anybody who's viewed their profile or follows one of these creators, I want to target them. Now, it's worthwhile experimenting with this. And again, creating a separate campaign to do that behavior targeting. And maybe you want to do behavior targeting by creators, or if you have previous ads that you've ran, you might want to do targeting based on that. So there's a few different ways that you can do targeting. My best practice here is create separate campaigns for these different types of targeting so you can evaluate what actually ends up performing well. Okay, moving along. Device targeting is something that 9 times out of 10, I would say, leave it alone. Targeting expansion, I would only do this if you have multiple interests and you still can't get the minimum 3 to 5 million, that's when I would say, okay, turn on targeting expansion. However, I would not recommend it if your audience size is sizable and if you can get over 3 to 5 million people. Moving along, now budgets and schedule. How much money are you running? This we already set up at a campaign level. Here it's going to ask us what dates do we want just to keep running this campaign every day, or do we want to set a specific time range? This is going to depend if you have a campaign approach. I would say that most advertisers who are doing e-com, you probably want to do a daily budget, and you probably just want to let this run continuously, and then you can optimize based on how it's performing. In terms of optimization, good question. If you just ask this question to yourself, how often should you optimize? I like to look at performance on a weekly basis, but I usually don't touch performance for the first 3 days I launch something, or for the following 3 days after I make a change. So yes, you should be looking at things every day, but give the platform a little room to breathe and to start delivering some impressions for at least 3 days before you make any changes. Okay, we're moving along. We're making progress. We're like 80% of the way there. Day parting. Day parting allows you to run your ads only at specific hours of the day, or if you want, only certain days of the week. It's very flexible, and I could say, hey, I want to run Mondays, Tuesdays, but Fridays I don't want to run, and then Saturdays I only want to run certain hours. So very cool feature. For the majority of you, I would recommend you don't do this. I would say do all day and let the algorithm optimize. What you'll tend to notice is when there's more people online and there's more people converting, you will naturally have more delivery. This only makes sense if you have maybe you're doing lead generation and you have a call center and you're trying to get leads during a certain period of time where your call center reps are available, because you can turn the lead into a sale. For e-com, it doesn't work that way. People buy whenever they want to buy. They're buying stuff at all hours of the day. You probably have made purchases at 2 or 3 a.m. in the morning when you're, coming back from the club or whatever you've been doing. So yeah, let the algorithm optimize this. It's a best practice to keep it at all day. All right, shifting down now to the fun stuff, bidding and optimization. So we already, at the campaign level, we decided that this was going to be a conversion campaign for us. So that's what we have here. And we said we wanted to do a lowest cost bidding strategy, so we didn't change any of that here. What you're seeing here is when you get billed. So you do not get billed when you get sales, because the platform is not responsible for that. You get billed for people seeing your ads on an impression basis. So that's what you're seeing here. The system's telling you that you're getting billed by impressions, and right now we have standard delivery. There is an option to do what we call accelerated delivery, where you basically are forcing the platform to show your ads with a greater frequency. 99% of the time you don't want to do this because it costs more money. You're going to pay a premium. You only want to do this in the situation where you're spending a crazy amount of money on your daily budgets, like 5, 10, 15, 20,000, and you want to force the system to spend as much of those dollars as possible. But again, for most of you starting off, this is not something you need to change. It should just say standard delivery. We are now going to shift from our targeting level, which is the ad group level, to our ad level and explore what that looks like. So first, we're going to start off and we're going to give our ad a name. I don't even know what ad we will be using, but I'm just going to say video, offer, and maybe a date. So I'm going to say June 2022. So the first thing you'll notice here on the left-hand side is identity. It's trying to figure out what TikTok handle do you want to connect to this. And Spark Ads is basically a feature that allows you to connect your organic profile so that you can use any organic posts that you've created or that another creator has created for you. Maybe if you're working with a content creator or an influencer, we will not be using that for this example. And although creator content is very, very valuable, there's different ways you can run it. You could use Spark Ads to run it from their account, or you can run the ads, just upload the video assets into the TikTok Ads Manager like we're doing now. You also have the ability to create a custom identity. So you could deliver your ads with a custom profile image and a display name. And TikTok is one of the platforms where you actually don't need an organic profile to run an actual campaign. So that's something that I thought that was interesting. Whereas Facebook, you need to have an organic profile. All right, so we are going to move down to the ad details. So what we're seeing here is two different type of ad formats. Single video is exactly what you can imagine. It's a video that just shows up on your feed, while a collection ad is a video that lets you open up what we call an instant experience, where you can see multiple products from your store. I would suggest that you probably start off with a single video asset and then you explore the collection ads, as it requires a little bit more work to set one of those up. Now, as you start building out your asset, you're going to see it populate on the right hand side. So you can upload from here assets wherever you have them. One thing that you want to be cognizant of is that there is a white space. So you notice on the right hand side and the bottom that blocks your video. So if you have videos that you're using on Facebook or Instagram for stories or reels, they might not perfectly translate here. So be very cautious of that when you're designing any of these. For this example, I'm going to use something I previously had in one of my, that I previously ran for one of the campaigns. So it's this video here, which I was running for trying to drive sales from one of my e-com stores to get people to download, to buy these downloadables, these like strategy kits that I sell, these PowerPoint documents. So I'll show you an example of what that looks like. And for context, this is not the original video that I had uploaded. I created a very simple, just motion asset, and TikTok actually has creative capabilities where they'll take your ads and their AI will make recommendations for you, and then they'll spit out a custom video asset from your original asset. And that example was one that TikTok created, which I thought that was super cool. And the funny part was that it outperformed the original one. So I thought that was interesting. Okay, so in terms of text, I'm just going to say, this is for my skincare cream. I'm going to say, keep your skin looking flawless with our ageless, this is terrible copy, by the way. With our ageless, I don't know, skin cream. Gee, look, if you're a copywriter and you're watching this right now, this is not my strong suit. So relax. All right. So you also have the option to add interactive add-ons. We're not going to get into that. That's something I would recommend you test in the future, but not something you need to do from the kickoff. I would recommend just starting with a regular video ad. The creative itself is going to drive the majority of the performance outside of targeting. These little tweaks not going to make a major difference, so no need to worry about that. You do want to be careful with how long your copy is. If you can keep things to one line or two lines, ideally, because what starts to happen is the copy will start to move up and it'll just eat more of the video space. So as you can see here in this example, the copy doesn't overlap anything that's important in the video. Okay, cool. We're gonna keep moving on. So now the next thing it's asking for is what's the destination page? Where do you want people to go and buy? Now you can create a TikTok instant page, which is basically an in-platform experience, which you can have, multiple. Here, I'm going to give you a quick peek. Okay, we're not going to get into that in this video. Anyways, just know that there's a more sophisticated in-app experience that you can have. And if you're familiar with Canvas ads on Facebook or what they call instant experiences, it's the same thing. It's just going to show you an instantly loading, sort of like a mini landing page within the app, within the platform, not your website. And you can have multiple products there, and they can click on one of those products, and then it'll go to your actual page where they can buy. So for this example, we'll just do website, and I'm just going to put an old link I had here. Call to action, it's going to default to dynamic, which allows TikTok's ad manager to show different call to actions. I would recommend that you start off with that, because for some users, maybe buy now, a shop now call to action is going to work better. For others, a learn more might work well. You can allow the platform to make that decision. And if you wanted to know all the different call to actions, you can just click here on standard and you can see all the different ones. I'd imagine that shop now, learn more might be very relevant for most businesses, but I would default that to dynamic and let TikTok sort of just play with it. If you're in some markets, maybe a disclaimer might make sense, but I think most businesses have any relevant terms and privacy sort of like disclaimers on their website usually. So if you have a page like a privacy policy page on your e-com site, you should be fine here. I wouldn't really worry about that. The last thing here is just basically showing us what pixel is being used, and it gives us the opportunity to do any third-party tracking. This is not going to be relevant for 99% of you. If you're a large enterprise, a business, you probably had third-party tracking, which allows you to see data outside of TikTok, maybe in Adobe Analytics, or if you're using Campaign Manager, which is a Google product, or if you're doing any third-party like brand safety verification or media validation partner, you might want to use this. For 99% of you that are running an e-com store, even if you're spending $100,000 a month, probably not going to be relevant to you. So a few tips on creative, because now we've reached the latter half of this. TikTok will burn through creative very, very fast. It's recommended that you have at least a minimum of anywhere between 4 to 6 ads that you're running at one given time, so you can let the algorithm optimize. And you want to aim to refresh this every 2 to 3 weeks, because TikTok will burn through your ads very quickly. Now, in terms of making ads for the platform, feature people, use people, include people in your ad, especially using your product, especially if you can partner with content creators so that they can make your ad look as native as possible for the platform. People tend to prefer and convert better on ads from creators. Now, this doesn't mean the creator has to be an influencer with like 50 million followers or 10 million followers. You can find plenty of creators that are quite niche and will do a great job reviewing your product, will be affordable to work with, and will really give a trust and credibility, because they'll be using the product from their perspective. So I would recommend that you definitely reach out to a few creators and test content from these different creators to sort of figure out what really works. And as you build different campaigns, whether it's interest targeting, whether it's behavior targeting, whether it's lookalike targeting, you can then start to understand, which creator works well based on even the type of targeting that you're doing. Other things to note, and I'm going to actually go back at this point to our campaign screen. I'm going to leave this. Other things to note, if you are going to upload a custom audience, if you want to create a lookalike audience and you want to upload a custom audience, you need at least 1,000 match records. So that's at least 1,000 customers that TikTok is able to match their account to your email or phone number or whatever the record is that you have. That means that you probably want to upload way more than 1,000 records to get 1,000 people matching. I'd assume most people that are starting off are not going to have that, so I wouldn't worry about that. I would just start with the interest and behavior targeting capabilities. Also, there is an A/B testing tool within the platform. So if you want to do a formal split cell test to understand either creative, what's working, targeting, or bidding, or try different optimization events, you can do that. It's more advanced. I'd recommend you don't start there. But hopefully this video has given you a good idea of what the TikTok Ads Manager looks like. You've understood the different levels of the campaign manager. So the campaign level where you can decide, what's going to be your objective for the campaign, and there's certain settings that live there. You've learned about the ad group, specifically, best practices. You want to have anywhere between 3 to 5 ad groups max within your campaign, and you want to create different campaigns depending if you're doing prospecting or retargeting. You want to use different ad groups to target different audiences. If you have multiple audiences, you want to have campaign budget optimization turned on at the campaign level, because that'll move money around between the different audiences. And then of course the ad level, where we have our creative, which is going to be really the lifeblood, the fuel of the performance of your campaign. So hopefully this video has helped you out. I'm sure I threw a ton of information at you, so please come back, rewatch the video. If you have any specific questions, feel free to reach out to me, drop me a message in the comment below. Also, if you aren't familiar, we have a Facebook ads program for e-com advertisers called Hypergrowth Ads. I'm going to put a link to that below. The program basically gives you access to 31 videos, exclusive videos for e-com advertisers. And this was made after the iOS 14 change, so it has a ton of insights on how you should be setting up your Facebook ads. The biggest challenge that Facebook e-com advertisers are facing today is the decline in conversion performance because of iOS 14. Most advertisers are still running campaigns like it's 2021, but the few e-com advertisers who are evolving are driving profitable sales, and they're doing so for one main reason: because they're now building Facebook campaigns in service of the algorithm. Now, a few years ago, you could see phenomenal Facebook ad success with minimal targeting and creative investment. But with measurement challenges and rising CPM prices, you can expect to scale your business profitably by doing the bare minimum. Now, if you don't feel fully confident in your current Facebook ad strategy, then I recommend checking out our Hypergrowth Ads membership. In my opinion, this is the fastest way to develop a high converting Facebook ad strategy and drive results that are going to make you feel excited about your business. I'm so confident that this program will improve your understanding of how to create campaigns that generate e-com sales, that I back it up with 100% money back guarantee. With the Hypergrowth Ads membership, you get instant access to exclusive video content with strategy, frameworks, and best practices that are working today. In addition, you also get an invite to the Market and Hustle Discord group, where I frequently share real-time ad resources, and members are there to connect with each other, to support each other with real-time insights on Facebook performance. And we've had hundreds of people sign up for our early access list, and some have already joined the program. So let's hear what a few of them had to say.
It's very intensive, and it really helped me to understand how the social media marketing actually works and how to build this sales funnel using content marketing and ad strategies.
After going through a course and discussing with Zaryn and watching some of his videos, the way he's able to combine strategy and tactics into one is very unique. You know, there's very few individuals who have such a structured and simple and down-to-earth approach to social media.
I definitely recommend the course. It's amazing, it's easy, it's quick, and it's really simple to understand. So
Hypergrowth Ads comes with 100% 30-day money-back guarantee to ensure that there is absolutely no risk on your part at all. Increase your confidence in Facebook e-com ads approach, or have every single cent back. Now, if this interests you and you want to increase your Facebook ads revenue growth this year with a clear step-by-step program, then follow the link in the description to find out more about Hypergrowth Ads. Either way, I've hoped you've enjoyed this video, and if you do join Hypergrowth Ads, I look forward to seeing you inside.